Okay, there we are. Hello, Facebook. I'm gonna go back over to our Zoom page here. There we go. And go ahead and start our recording. There we go. Hey, happy Monday motivation. I am here with Ciandra.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're talking about the one thing this morning, Ciandra.
Okay.
And this chapter is we just talked about time blocking the other week and how time blocking was the most important way to live your purpose and your priority and be productive. And then this time we are talking about the three commitments. So if you want to have extraordinary results through time blocking and hitting your one thing, then you have to be committed to three things. And I thought about you when I was looking at this in advance. I've known you for a long time. I'm going to add Johnny Smith to the room here. I've known you for a long time. Tell us a little bit, how long have you been in business?
Well, I've been in business almost 18 years.
Okay.
And I will say for the newbies out there that once you're looking to cap and make your business profitable, it does take time blocking and it takes some coaching and all of that. So you remember you were my coach at one point.
The very beginning, when I first came to Keller Williams.
You did. And I always would say that I was your what?
You were the problem child.
I was like, I'm the problem child. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you out there that probably feels that way. But your mindset has to be changed because somebody has to come in and help mold that. And she always called me a rock star.
And you are a rock star because I mean, we had our awards ceremony at the beginning of the year for 2022. And where were you in that? What did you get last year's business?
Number 2 in GCI.
That's not a bad place to be for especially individual agents. So if you've never met Ciandra in the office, you want to meet her. She's got an office in the office, but she pops in and out. You'll see her at Coffee with Capper. She's always on the ALC.
Yes.
And so I really, the reason that I thought about you is because you mentioned mindset. And I know that there's always peaks and valleys in our daily, right? We're not little machines that run perfectly every day. Because we're human. And I liked on page 175, it says that if you want these three commitments to being extraordinary, not just ordinary, in time blocking, you have to have the mindset of mastery. And it starts with our mindset. And it takes, if you want extraordinary results, you need extraordinary efforts. And a lot of times I don't think people are really, they're not committed to that. They're committed with just okay, right? And we probably all have that every once in a while in our role, right?
Well, if you think about it, most people that come into real estate feels like this is just going to be the magic pill. You're going to get a real estate license and then you're going to come in and you're just going to automatically have business. Well, change that mindset because now you have to put in the work, the mental work in just to make sure that your business stays afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And just going out getting new business is all about your mindset as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I know it says, first you have to change your mindset. And then second, you have to seek out the very best way to do something. And you may think you're doing something really at a high level. And then you find out if you're open-minded, you find out maybe you might need to change that depending on the market. So the three commitments that they mentioned is following the path of mastery, moving from E to P. Some of you may have not heard that before, E to P. It's part of the 6 personal perspectives and living an accountability cycle. And so all three of those reminded me of you. I think that the way that you think, I love when you get out of balance with your mindset, you quickly check yourself.
Change.
You
immediately change.
Yes.
Don't allow that to stay where you are with non-productivity or non-mindset activities to make you great.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, now I will say this too, I fall into a hole and I may stay in there about 2 minutes and then I think about it and I think about how if I look back, I've always come through. So you just have to maintain that Don't stay where you are. Seek other ways to be great.
Well, and that's that staying on the path of mastery and being always constantly learning and growing, not thinking you know everything about everything all the time and getting into that place, being vulnerable and humble, right? Those
Yeah.
are some things. And it says, the one thing is that people think that mastery is just a destination. You're going to hit it and then you're going to be in it. And
No.
it's really a path. It's the journey. Mastery is the journey, and it always is happening. You're always learning. I mean, I think about bold, and how many times you've been through that.
8.
8 times. Okay. So,
Same information,
yeah.
taught the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of how you take it in that
Mhm.
particular time. Every time you're gonna get a nugget from it,
Mm-hmm.
every time. Unless you're just one of those people, every time you're gonna get a nugget from it. So, you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Yes.
You
Well, I love
That's
that.
basically the way I take my business. Because if I'm looking at it this way this time, it may not work the same way the next time. So I have to change up often.
Well, and I think one of the things it mentions in this little section too that I like, it brings in a model in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And it's just Gary is such a simple model person. It's a triangle, and at the bottom of that is models, and at the top of the triangle is creativity. So as you're on the road of mastery, you're always going to work on the basics and the models, and you're never going to go away from that. You're going to continue learning and growing the basic models of a white belt, right? And then you're going to eventually become that black belt, and you're going to add the creativity, because when it talks about that, and my kids were in Taekwondo for a spell when they were younger, and you start out with that white belt and it looks just like boring. Okay. And you do the same thing over and over and you're graded on it, but you build on it at every single belt that you raise up. And a black belt is just someone who's taken the white belt models and done them over and over and over, and they've mastered them. And
Yeah.
so I think I love that you don't go back away from the conversation about bold of, well, I've done that already, been there, done that. I've heard that a lot from people will say that. I'm not going to do that again. I already know it.
I will say this,
Mhm.
when I was talking about not doing bold a few times, and of course, I'm mastery coached every week. But I was telling my coach, I said, hey, I said, now, I don't know if I'm doing bold this time because I've done bold.
Mhm.
And so he put it in perspective, and he asked me about maybe a favorite artist
Mhm.
or something. And so I said, well, I'm going to see Usher again. And he was like, oh, so you're going to see Usher again? You're going to sing the same songs?
Oh, well, that's a good way to look at that.
And he was like, so you would not go to a concert because, and I was like, but there's new stuff in there. He's like, they put new stuff in bold. They just suddenly put it in there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and then you opened your mind. I think it goes with that mindset and being able to look at that and get out of your own way. And I love the accountability piece, because that's part of the 3 commitments to being to greatness. And it says in that mastery that there's 10,000 hours that usually in studies they've done, someone that went from being an amateur to someone that's really doing something at a high level spent an average of about 10,000 hours to get to that mastery before they were like you don't see all of that work. You see the results of it, right? And they make it look easy, but you didn't see all the work. Just like you mentioned, someone getting new in the business, right?
well, too, when you think about one thing that I can probably bring to an example that would probably hit home is capping.
Okay. Mhm.
So think about when I was in coaching with you,
Mhm.
I wasn't a capper. I didn't even really think about that. I mean, I knew that people were capping. I knew what capping was, but I didn't even realize the significance of capping. And it took me until I did bold. And I was already in the business 6 years. So, I mean, the people that we have now that are capping at a high level, that didn't happen for me. It took me 6 years to cap. And now I'm in business 18 and I've capped ever since.
Right.
But it takes a while. It's just a road that you have to be committed to do
Mhm.
that.
It's not an easy peasy, snap your fingers thing a lot of times. So I love that. And one of the things on this page, it talks about the numbers. When the book talks about committing to doing your one thing 4 hours a day, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not even doing it 15 minutes a day.
Mhm.
4 hours drives me. Why 4 hours? It's actually on this page, it tells you why. Because the folks that they followed that that did 10,000 hours to greatness, and that were gifted in that area, it took them 10 years. They worked 3 hours a day every single day. And Gary in the book is like, okay, well, let's give you 2 weeks off. Let's work 5 days a week. And if you do that, 4 hours a day is what it would take to hit mastery, to go the journey. So that's where you have to look at what, the journey and the path for that, for sure, on mastery.
And can we add something to that? Because if you put that goal in front of yourself and you watch that goal every day, then it becomes a part of your being to reach that. So I feel like make up a poster, or it doesn't even have to be a dream board, just something that you want, that you think that it's worth having. If it's your first listing, just put that amount on a piece of paper, frame it, look at it every day and see if that's what you want to do.
Your brain will start working on getting it for you, won't they? You'll pick up things. You'll start noticing that you'll start focusing on
But you
looking for
focus on
sellers.
expands.
Yes.
Another bold law.
Yes, we love those. So Michelangelo said, if the people knew how hard I had to work to gain my mastery, it wouldn't seem wonderful at all. You think that's true?
Yeah.
Okay. So the pursuit of mastery bears gifts if you do that. And so time blocking is essential to mastery. Now, moving from E to P, a lot of agents may not know what that means. And that E is entrepreneurial, and then P is purposeful. And there's a graph that is in the book that says, if you're just operating in your natural gift, you're only going to get so far. And some people have more natural gifts than others on whatever it is. Like I'm not a skier. Somebody might naturally get up and ski, and that's not going to be me. And if I want to be purposeful, I need to get outside my comfort zone. I can do that, but I'm going to have to do some things differently and get outside my head first. What do you think about E to P?
Now, E to P, now that's a real tight one, because once we start doing business and the business looks successful, you think it's all about just the entrepreneurial side. But then you have to get, again, your mindset to be purposeful in what you're doing and purposeful about your goals and what you want your life to look like. And for that to be expanded, you have to go from entrepreneurial. You can't stay right there.
Well, I can tell you on page 180 and 181, there's graphs, of course, that show entrepreneurial and purposeful. And you can see it's like a ceiling here. It's maybe a glass ceiling. And when you're E, you're entrepreneurial, you just keep doing the same things over and over that you naturally can do, the same systems, the same models, the same conversations, and you keep hitting your head. And after a while, you're like, ouch, over and over. And you're like, I just need to, this is not for me. I just need to go do something different. I see this, listen, I'm just going to be for real. What we're coming up next, our board dues renewal for 2024. This right here knocks people out of business. They get out of business because they've not become purposeful and they don't have any income coming in. We see it all the time. This is where people shut their doors. This is, I've got to get outside my comfort zone. And I may have to do things, say things, and be different. And it's going to feel a little weird. And I'm not going to like it a lot, but I'm going to break through. And the ceiling's going to happen over and over and over as you go through. Tell us, have you had a place right here? Like, what does it look like for you for E to P?
A ceiling for me would probably be door knocking. And I know that there's a lot of people that they have great success with it. that is just one of those things I just can't get behind. And I have started to try to change that because this business is forever changing and we have to do some uncomfortable things. And so with those ceilings, you have to know what's coming up in your life, what you need to take care of, how you need to show up. And then you won't have this deficit that comes up when things come due, because we have to know what it is. That's all about knowing your numbers. E to P means that I know how many transactions it will take to make everything happen in my life that's supposed to. And then you add in some of those dream factors as well. So that's the way I look at it. I just take everything in those numbers. I know what my numbers have to be. I know what I have to do to be going where I'm going.
Well, and I think, when you're like, why am I not moving? You go back and analyze if you're saying, if you need to change your script or what you're saying or your approach, or maybe it's just going back to the 3 L's: leads, listings, and leverage. Do I have enough leads? If I don't, then what do I need? Do I need to do door knocking, right? Do I need to add other lead gen ways to get leads?
What is
So-
your lead gen?
Yeah, well, it depends. Like I have several. I have my lead gen is real estate school. My lead gen is asking agents for warm referrals. My lead gen is also some online leads. So I have several different ways to get leads for sure. And they're always different ways. I've been door knocking with agents before. And I'm not door knocking for listings, but I thought, you know what, they might hit a door that they might want to be a real estate agent, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So there's a lot of ways that you can find leads. So, if you're looking at every agent in the office has probably 3 or 4 lead gen sources they should be working and not just one. And they may be different for everyone, but the one common denominator is your sphere, people that know you and love you, your Mets. Those are golden, like golden letters, right? So E to P means that you're finding the best way to do something, and you're looking at, can you
Growing your business.
Yeah, you're growing your business, and it's not being is necessarily the best you can be, but the best you can do something. How are you doing something the best way to make it more purposeful and not entrepreneurial? So it says too, if you need to know what that looks like, ask the focusing question. And what's the one thing that you can do to make everything else seem easier and necessary? What are those things to be purposeful? And so when you hit that plateau, that's the question that you ask yourself. And stay forever the apprentice and looking at how you can be better. So I love the accountability cycle because you've mentioned several times that you have a mastery coach and you are very coachable. First of all, you have to be that. And it talks about you can either be accountable or unaccountable. You're either one or the other. There's no other thing other than those two. And you can either be accountable and responsible, or you can be a victim. And I love that in Bold, we talk a lot about victim mentality. Victim doesn't mean who you are, but it might be a habit that you're being. You might be in a victim habit. That makes sense.
You can actually fall into that very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You can fall into that so quickly, and you would have to have for me, mastery is something that I've done since I think I've been a MAPS client now 7 years.
Okay. I remember when you signed up for that in the Bold room.
I signed up nervously and hesitantly. However, that has been the biggest thing that changed my business, because I was able to get a coach I've had 3, so you don't have to stick with the same coach.
Yeah.
However, they're all claiming to have the same goal, is to help you get to your P.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a tough way to look at your business. But looking at that business and thinking about how they have coached me and the trajectory of my E to P, has been tremendous. And with that, for the last 3 years, I think I've landed up in the top individual number 2 spot for GCI over the last 3 years
Mhm.
has been one of the wildest things that I've never thought that I would have been able to accomplish. And so I just think that everybody, whatever coaching that you could get, I mean, that you could afford, that you could attend, if you would just take your time and address the things that you need to go and do, which is family reunion, mega camp, all those things that they're fun, but they're very educational. And what happens is you meet people all over the world in different, paths in their business
Mhm.
that could help you have that light turn on to say, oh, that's me next year. And so once I started doing all of that and being just accountable to my coach, to myself, to my business, to my family, you have to take this business and you have to time block. So if that be 9 to 11 in the mornings or 6 to 8 at night, whichever time it is for you, you take that time and you look at your business and you take accountability to adding to it.
It's not fun, but you know what? I love that, some of the things that it says here on page 184, I see in you. Take 100% ownership. And I know that if you read the first chapter of the Success Principles by Jack Canfield, he takes it right. I mean, it's very raw. Like if you're 100% own things, you don't blame others. You don't become victim. You own whatever your DNA is in that, and you move forward. So some characteristics of someone being accountable is that they absorb setbacks and keep going. We don't have what we might have a few minutes of a pity party, but we move on. Okay. We get back up. They persevere in hard times. They stay the course. They're results oriented. I mean, life happens. You can either be the author of your life or the victim of it. There's only 2 choices, accountable or unaccountable. I mean, and even if it's somebody that you just say, hey, I'm gonna work at doing this every day. And can you hold me to that? Ask me about it. Ask me how I'm doing on it. That helps if someone's gonna ask. Like, this is not even a business thing. And I had a tooth pulled right before we went to Mega Camp. And I had to go like 72 hours without Diet Coke, guys. And I am like, Diet Coke is my jam. Okay, every day. So I got to there and I'm like, oh my gosh, at 12 o'clock, I can have Diet Coke. And Jay and Jessica Fields were like, what would it look like if you didn't go back and drink Diet Coke again? And I went, my life would be over. So anyway, I was like, I didn't have to do it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna drink Diet Coke. Well, and I know I haven't had one since, you guys, but because I know any random time they're gonna ask me, have you had a Diet Coke? And I can say no, because I don't want to say yes to them. Because anyway,
and that right there lets you know the level of commitment, because you don't want to have that out there that you did.
I know.
Or that you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
Now, between them, I mean, they'd be like, well, if you have, like here's the thing about having your friends do it. They might let you off the hook, right? Because they love you. So that's why coaching is they're like this, and they're gonna ask questions so you can self-discover why you need to get back on whatever you're doing. So here's some things that if someone's accountable, they might say, let's get on with it. Let's do it. They find a solution. What can I do now? They own it. Well, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? Acknowledges reality. And this is the way it is. Okay, so this is what it is. What do I need to do next? And they seek reality. What's really happening? Now, if a victim might avoid reality, they might say, let's don't even talk about it. Let's not ask questions about what's going on. They fight it. That's not how I see it. They may not be open to looking at it. They blame. If everyone else would just do their job, I could have whatever. They have personal excuses. It's not my job to do that. Or they wait and hope. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. Well, I've always heard that hope's not a strategy. So, if you're saying, and I have said some of these things, like we've all had a victim moment. We got to
I'm
get
gonna
back out
add
of it.
something to that.
Add
I'm just
something.
gonna add something to that.
I love it.
Because I had a coach, Jen. She was a first lady at a church, and she was a bold and a mastery coach.
Mhm.
So she kind of had that interlife in balance. And so she would say, if you get into those type of talks with yourself and you have those conversations with yourself, something's happened to you bad today, and you thought that this is going to be the week that I'm going to have. Nope, you're going to have a 3-minute funeral.
Oh, I love
You're going to have a
that.
3-minute funeral.
Yeah.
So that 3 minutes, you're going to be able to cry if you want to, you cuss if you want to, you scream if you want to, you lay down and roll in the floor if you want to. But 3 minutes is all this gets.
Okay. I've never heard that, and I
3
I
minutes
adore
is
it.
all it gets.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
you go to the next positive, which is
Well, you do
accountable
that.
stuff.
You do that. I've had conversations with you where you've been on the end of the funeral.
I was in the
Yes,
funeral.
you were in the
Screaming.
funeral. But you get out of it. That's what I like. You don't live in pity party, and you don't woe is me everywhere,
I'm
because that
just
just
saying,
is.
I'm that bobblehead sand thing.
Yes.
And you know, when the sand is at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
the sand is at the bottom, that's God.
Okay.
And when
Mhm.
somebody knock you down, that sand pulls you right back up. Whenever you had those clowns back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Oh,
not,
I've had one of
I'm
those.
not those clowns. I'm
Mhm.
gonna come right back up at
Mhm.
some point. It may not be the next minute, but of course.
But you
you'll
are,
pop
and you
back up.
do. I love that. So victim mindset is a habit. If you find yourself in the habit, you need to have a mindset fitness workout where you're following your negative conversations with yourself every day, and get out of the thought and stop the blame game and look at systems and go back to models and start focusing on that and get out of all of that drama. So highly successful people are clear about their goal and the events in their life, and they have accountability partners wherever that is. So also at the bottom of page 187, in a study done, it says that if those that wrote their goals down were 39.5% more likely to hit them, but those that gave progress reports to somebody else were 76.7% more likely to hit their goals, because they said, I'm not drinking Diet Coke, please check on me. Okay.
Yeah.
Ask me about it in a like, all right. And there are agents in the office that do that with each other. So whether it's mastery coaching or
Yeah.
it's peer accountability, it's helpful to have speak it out, let somebody know what you're doing and what your intention is with yourself, so they can be a part of it with you.
Well, today I was intentional
Mhm.
on wearing this shirt so that everybody could see it. So
Oh,
I
it's
have a product of Big.
Mhm.
Can you read that? Read it.
Big comes from small, done well. And that looks like that's a KW shirt.
It is a KW
Okay.
shirt because I got it at Mega Camp
There you
last
go.
year.
We have to get our swag.
What I want to make sure that we end by saying is, do something. If you do something, you got to do something. It could be a lot of small things, and you may end up big.
It's the domino run, right? Hitting that one domino. Well, I appreciate Ciandra hanging out. I see Johnny is on here with us, and Johnny
Johnny.
had a goal of doing that. And a
Hey
lot of you
there.
on Facebook Live. And so the big ideas of this chapter, the 3 commitments, are: commit to be your best. Extraordinary happens when you give your best, become your best, and do your most important work. The big comes from the small, right? Be purposeful about what your one thing is, and move from being natural entrepreneurial to go outside your comfort zone and be purposeful in a new way of thinking, new skills and new relationships to get to that on that path of mastery. Take ownership of your outcomes, whether they're fabulous or they stink, right? That you did that. I did that.
Yeah.
Right. Change only occurs when you're accountable, even if we don't love it. And find a coach, whatever that looks like. Be hard pressed to find anyone who achieves extraordinary results without them. All your favorites, all your actors, all your singers, all your your sports guys and gals out there, they have coaches, you guys, to be better. Why don't you? Why don't I? I have a coach as well. I have several in life.
And I will
Okay?
tell you, it does get on your nerves, but
Yeah.
it is to make you uncomfortable.
You've told me before. I told them I can't talk to them this week.
I was like, I can't talk this week. I need a mental break.
Yeah, you do.
However, when I did that, I needed them.
Yes, that's true. It says now you
So-
just have, it says after you decide you're going to commit to these things, now you just have to avoid getting hijacked. And guess what? That's what we're going to talk about next week. What are the thieves that stop you from this? They're out there. You might be one. I don't know. So check back. Okay. Thank you, Ciandra.
Thank you for having
I
me.
just love it. You guys have a fantastic week and be purposeful. And let us know if you need us to ask you about it. Okay. See you later.